Well, welcome back to the big story. A big story tonight is a threat by the Kenyan National Union of Teachers to paralyze national examinations mid this week should the Teachers Service Commission not meet the deadline in reviewing policies that teachers are in contention with. Among these policies is the delocalization program, as well as the introduction of performance appraisals and new career progression guidelines. And NAT Executive Secretary Nairobi Branch Mugo Macharia is with us in studio. Mr. Macharia, looking at some of these policies introduced by the Teachers Service Commission, I mean, performance appraisals, the new career progression guidelines, these are tools, so to speak, that modern career management tools in the 21st century. Looking at it keenly, it would paint NAT as oddly out of touch with these modern management tools, and the TSC as slightly progressive, albeit, as you mentioned, these policies seem to be implemented in quite an aggressive manner. What then would teachers prefer from the Teachers Service Commission?
First, before I answer your question, I want to put an issue straight, that is about the strike. As a NAT, we are being provoked by the TSC. Mm-hmm. It is the TSC which is provoking our members. It is not us who want to strike. It is the TSC which is provoking us. Mm-hmm. We went to Naivasha with a clean heart, but you are aware, the first people who came up with a press statement is the TSC, mm-hmm. meaning they were not prepared for the talks and they were not in good faith. So the other issue...
Well, I beg to differ with that, Mr. Macharia, because reports that media houses got was that 3 days into these talks with the Teachers Service Commission, NAT gave a condition insisting that 85 of its members who are facing transfers have the transfers revoked, and that was the condition as to which the talks were to continue. Does that not paint the Kenya National Union of Teachers in bad light?
Let me tell you, though that is just the propaganda which was used by the TSC. And they wanted to paint NAT as being selfish. There were so many issues which were being discussed. Promotion of teachers, the TPAD, career progression, and all those others. Mm-hmm. But they picked on only one issue, that is the transfer of the 85 union officials. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, TSC has invested a lot of money in propaganda. And this one was to try and paint NAT as being selfish in front of the Kenyans, mm-hmm. to see that we are only interested with ourselves.
Well, I want to speak to Mr. Mayo in just a moment, but like I mentioned earlier, KUPPET, whose members, a bulk of which, whose members will be affected by these policies, say they have no problem with the policies by the Teachers Service Commission. So that raises quite a bit of questions there. Could the teachers, NAT rather, be worried about being emasculated by the government by dispersing of the officials through the country? Because principals and their deputies are senior officials of the Kenya National Union of Teachers.
Yeah, I think KUPPET actually is on the right track. NAT are doing their strategies, maybe because if strike can be done when children are doing exams, mm-hmm. maybe the Ministry of Education will say to avoid the strike being done, let's agree with our terms. But then, to us as Parents Association, we know the consequences of the strike will be enormous, and people who will carry the burden will be the parents and the children. As now, we've been praying for our children during prayer days, and we know that God is on our side, and our children will pass and transit to Form 1, and those in Form 4 will transmit to university.
All right. Well, the Kenya Parents Association is a major stakeholder in the education sector. So is the Kenya National Union of Teachers. NAT, however, says some of these policies by the Teacher Service Commission are implemented without consultation. Was the Kenya Parents Association consulted in some of these policies?
Yeah, we were consulted, especially on delocalization. We had consultative meeting with the ministry, and we agreed. In fact, when you ask a parent about transfers of teachers, in any local school, in any county, a teacher who has stayed more than 9 years is overdue, especially when you ask a parent. Because that particular teacher will have friends, will have a colony of his own. So we were happy about the transfers of these teachers because we'll have new brooms, and new brooms will sweep nicely than the old ones.
Well, Mr. Macharia, what then seems to be the problem? Because, from the Kenya Parents Association, they say consultation was done. TSC goes further to say these same policies are contained in the collective bargaining agreement that we saw teachers fight, on the streets for. What then seems to be the problem if it was contained in this CBA?
About the Parents Association, I don't know what they mean that they were consulted, because to my best of my knowledge, I have never had any meeting, TSC calling all the stakeholders of education. And we have no problem with the transfer. What we are against is the delocalization. And that is why I heard from the chairman of KUPPET saying even the meaning of the word delocalization is demeaning. So what we are against is we have no problem with a teacher who has been transferred into another school. That one we have no problem. What we are against is where teachers are moved without their will, even without looking at even the condition of that teacher, is moved from one county to another county. Actually, it is punitive.
Wouldn't you say that the nature, first of all, of unions like the Kenya National Union of Teachers would make this necessary? Because there's usually voting. There will be a voting process for NAT later this year. It would be unrealistic to expect a principal or a deputy to effectively supervise or sanction a teacher whose vote they will need at some point later on.
Teachers are professionals. You know when you are doing your professional work and your work, and also when you are doing union work. And I also want to put something straight. When you hear TSC talking about the 85 union officials, what TSC did is that they started by transferring union officials so that they will convince teachers, if we can transfer union officials, what about you? You must move. Because being a deputy, being a principal, or being a head teacher can't curtail you from being a unionist.
Well, that takes me back to my previous question, Mr. Macharia. Do you think this deadlock between NAT and the Teacher Service Commission is large enough to warrant the postponement or interruption of national examinations? Hundreds of thousands of parents and their students, who are candidates this year are waiting to sit for the exams. Their lives have to go on. Does this really warrant such a disruption?
What we have said, as I have told you, that as NAT, we are not the ones who are for the strike. It is the TSC which is provoking us. We are ready for dialogue. We have given them 14 days, and our team is ready to sit down with the TSC and discuss. And it is not only about delocalization. Let me tell you, even the worst thing which has demoralized teachers is promotion of teachers.
All right, Mr. Mayo, let's have your word in this just before we wind up. Do you feel that the Kenya Parents Association, its representatives, the parents, have been well represented in this issue?
Yeah, but then, you see, this union of teachers, I'm happy that the Secretary General of Nairobi branch has agreed that teachers are professionals. So what we want as parents is you people to know that when you do your work professionally, we don't have a problem as parents association. But when you abandon our children at the time of need is when we will raise our eyes and ears and say, please, we'll remind you that you are the ones who looked for these jobs and you are employed by TSC and you agreed with their terms. So why don't you be professionals? You have 365 days in the year. Why at this particular time that you want to do a strike when our children are doing their exams? And we need our children to transit to high school, to transit to university, because we've really sacrificed a lot as parents.
All right, and you know, very hearty, you know, reaching out there from parents. Final comments from you, Mr. Macharia. The deadlock between TSC and NAT seems to have started way back in 1967 when TSC was formed. What will be the solution to this deadlock?
Actually, I looked at the analysis of the strikes teachers have gone, and let me say, the solution is always having a dialogue, and also TSC, whenever it is coming with some policies, not some, with all the policies, it should discuss with all the stakeholders, unions being there. And my dear, if you look at all the gains teachers have got in this country, it is always through demanding, through strikes, and actually we don't like strike. It is always the last resort. So we would encourage TSC, instead of always using intimidation and threats, let us be sitting down, we sit down and we talk, and when it is coming up with new policies, let it be consulting the unions.
All right. Well, many thanks for speaking to us. Mugo Macharia, there is the NAT Executive Secretary, Nairobi branch. We've also been speaking to Nicholas Mayo, who is the chair of the Kenya Parents Association, and certainty looming in the country just 2 weeks ahead of the national examinations. That is the big story tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Michelle Ngele of the Ambo Primetime News is up next with Yusuf Ibrahim. Good night.